I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first item here that we're going to have.
I'm just reporting on the financials from last Thursday.
Okay.
Okay. Last Thursday, I approved the purchase orders for the 2014 funding for the Agriculture Society, Historical Society and Tourism in an amount of $20,000 each, and also approved the purchase order for Lake Geauga Recovery Centers to fund and assist for the jail treatment program at Geauga County Safety Center in the amount of $41,200. So there's no action required on this report.
Okay. And number 2 will be the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute the minutes for the meeting of June 12th.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, motion approved. And number 3 is going to be to approve minutes from June 17th, 2014.
Oh, I'll make that motion. Yeah.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, motion approved. And number 4, we have the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution 14-102, itemizing the financials for the meeting of June 24th. Dave, is there anything you want to add to this?
I will report on that. Financials today include supplemental appropriation for Department of Job and Family Services, College Assistance Fund for startup expenses for the Ohio Works Incentive Program in the amount of $20,000. Encumbrances include travel requests for Common Pleas Court Technology and Department of Emergency Services. Vouchers today include a payment to Goschalk Building Company for pay request number 9 for the Board of DD ICF DD downsizing project in the amount of $109,179. The payments for the 2014 funding that we did the purchase orders for last Thursday for Historical Society, Tourism Board, and
Should be the Agriculture.
Agriculture Society was not included on here. I knew there was 3. For $20,000 each. Payment to Lake Geauga Recovery Centers to fund an assistant for the jail treatment program at Geauga County Safety Center, amount of $41,200. A payment to the Airport Authority for partial payment of engineering fees associated with the ODOT Aviation Project, number 14-03, in the amount of $17,500. And reimbursements of participation fees to county employees who completed the Continuous Health Improvement Program in the amount of $60 each.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, okay, motion is approved. Alrighty, number 5, Dave, this is regarding fiscal consulting services for Geauga County.
Correct. And Mrs. Hunter, Frank, and John want to come up?
Morning.
Morning.
Those of you who don't know, this is
Hi,
John
John.
Connor.
Morning, John, how are you?
John's been the assistant to the auditors for the last, prior to me arriving as the auditor. He was assisting Tracy Jumison, and John and I speak on a couple times a month talking about the financials of the situation within not only the county, but across the country. As you remember, during the last time I came before the board, we had a very good note rating, which, you know, we paid off. Hopefully we're going to successfully pay off the safety center now, which is going to be a great thing. And John's been a great help in identifying the people who can actually bid on that moving forward. So I would request that you approve John's stipend so we can continue to work together to save the county money.
And going forward, we're going to be looking at other construction projects and other needs for financing that John's expertise, I think, is invaluable to help us with that.
I couldn't agree with more.
And the interest rate this last year was how low it
0.4.
was?
0.4.
Point
0.4%. It was lowest in the state, so we did very well.
So that certainly was a help to
Yeah,
keep our costs down.
absolutely.
Just one item, Frank, we're not going to be going to a 4A rating this year because of the size of the issue, and there's a scarcity of paper in the market, so we feel, that the cost of 4A rating and going through the effort, it just doesn't make sense. So, in fact, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to break that 40 basis points.
Even
John's
though-
always very optimistic on
Right.
this. I
Hope it doesn't bite me. but I think
Virtue of the fact
it's good
that
math.
It'll pay us.
might not happen.
You didn't bring your crystal ball.
No, it
Right.
didn't.
Okay. If we could read number 5.
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute the agreement to provide fiscal consulting services to Geauga County, Ohio between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and John C. Connor for the period June 25th, 2014 through June 24th, 2015 in the amount of $700 per month.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion stands approved. All right, thank you.
Want me to hang here for the
Yeah,
next
for
two?
the next
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, for number 6,
This is in just a while, so if you have Frank sign it,
Okay.
and prove that there's no.
okay. If you want to read that.
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board acknowledge receipt of the fiscal officer certificate in regards to the $3 million Public Safety Communication Systems Improvement Note Series 2014.
Make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion approved.
Maybe we can explain for the benefit of the audience, we had $4 million in debt last year.
Right, and we successfully, with the board's assistance, we're going to officially pay off the safety center.
Which is $750,000.
$750,000. We're going to put $250,000 down on the communications equipment, which will take us down to $3 million. $3 million, which, since I've been the auditor, would be the lowest debt we have.
And the significant part is that we now own the safety center.
We now own the safety center, and
9 years after.
I mean, it's all significant, but the bottom line is that we own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enough. So then this is the first resolution to
Okay.
the issuance of notes.
Okay. So then if we want to read number 6 and 7,
We did
or
six.
7, correct, yep.
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute resolution number 14-103, providing for the issuance of notes of the County of Geauga in the aggregate principal amount of $3 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs of acquiring and installing a public safety communications system.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion stands approved.
I thank you all, because this is a nice red letter day for
Yes,
Georgia.
it is.
The safety center is paid off within 9 years.
8.5.
Yeah.
That's big.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move this.
Okay, Linda for archives.
Heard some good things about your presentation from the auditors.
Oh, did you?
There was a guy at our office yesterday who happened to be there and
Oh,
saw your presentation. Very
he said he didn't fall asleep even though it was after lunch.
That was riveting.
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 Riveting. Good morning.
Morning.
Um, Thank you for letting me come before you. As you see, we're asking for you to accept the resignation of our awesome new clerk because she decided to go to grad school sooner than we expected, which is wonderful for her, but kind of crabby for me. I'm squeezing everything out of her I can get before she goes. Her last day will be August 15th, and she's done a wonderful job for us. But I do have to ask that you would accept her resignation as she moves on in her career.
We could read number 8.
The Archives and Records Center is requesting the Board accept the resignation of Pamela Bassett, Archives and Records Center Clerk number 2607 to be effective August 15th, 2014.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion approved. And then number 9 is to repost for that position?
Yes.
Okay. We can read number 9 then.
The Archives and Records Center is requesting the Board grant permission to advertise for the position of full-time Archives and Records Center Clerk number 2607. This position will remain posted until filled.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion stands approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Anita.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Morning.
Good. Final step before releasing the money to Patty Holdings, the revolving loan made, you signed the letter of commitment maybe a month ago. They have all the documents in order and they're ready to be executed and we can then release a check. and put them on a payment plan.
Okay, so if we could read number 10.
The Office of Community and Economic Development is requesting the board approve and execute the legal binding documents for the local revolving loan fund loan to the Patty Group Incorporated in the amount of $100,000 for 5 years, 60 months at 3% interest, including loan servicing letter, participation agreement, promissory note, guarantee of the Patty Group Incorporated, guarantee of Patty Group Holdings, guarantee of Patty Group Management Incorporated, and security agreement.
Is that motion?
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion stands approved.
Steve was very appreciative. He asked me to thank the board, and he's
Yeah.
gonna try and thank you all personally as well. So it's nice to work with.
Yeah, they're a great
Some of the
company.
companies are just, well, they're all good, but Steve goes way back with us. So we helped him get started. So
Is that right?
it's good to see him continue to expand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we got Joe. How you doing?
Good.
There you go.
Good, good.
Oh, just have one item this morning. South Russell Village is requesting funds for their Schneider Road project in the amount of $169,732.82. These funds are part of the municipal road fund, which license tag fees, they come into actually our funds, and we release them back to the municipalities because they were collected from them for some reason. Our revised code does that, but it provides that they have to request you for it, the Board of Commissioners, and then it has to, you ask for my recommendation, is this valid? And yes, this is definitely a valid use of those funds, so I'm recommending that you do give those monies to South Russell.
Okay, if we could read number 11.
The county engineer's office recommends the board approve the use of municipal road funds to assist with repair and paving of Snyder Road in the village of South Russell in accordance with section 4.08 of the guidelines in the amount of $169,732.82.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion stands approved. Thanks, Joe. Okay, maintenance department, Glenn.
Morning.
Morning.
I know, there's a lot there.
This is with Ripple paving. We get the courthouse, 470 senior center. We're gonna get that all sealed, restriped, and this will also give us, we need to get a couple culvert pipes out front here fixed up. So that'll get those repaired, and we got a couple small minor repairs we can get done at the senior center and at the county home. And that'll take care of all that.
Okay. If we could read number 12.
The maintenance department is requesting the board approve and execute a service contract agreement with Regal Paving, Seal Coating, and Line Striping Incorporated to perform maintenance and repair of asphalt for Geauga County parking lots for the year 2014 in an amount not to exceed $25,000.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion stands approved.
Hey, y'all
Hey,
have a good
thanks,
day.
Glenn. Have a good day.
Take care now.
Mhm. Okay, probate and juvenile. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Good, good.
This is in regard to our annual grant that we receive from the Ohio Attorney General's Office through their Victim of Crime Assistance Division. As a reminder, the funds that we receive are federal and state funds that are confiscated from crime and required by law to then serve victims of crime. And CASA for Kids is eligible for those funds because it is considered that the children we serve, because they are involved in the system because of abuse and neglect and dependency, are eligible as victims of crime. This is an annual grant. We've been receiving it since 1997. This year we learned that they were offering us to increase our request of the federal funds. The federal funds are VOCA, funneled through the federal to the state. SVAA grant is state grant. And so they didn't indicate what we should be asking for, just that we could ask for an increase. And what I heard from Ohio CASA is that we should expect to receive that increase, that those who ask will receive. So the way that I calculated and determined the increase is based on the fact that, and we've not been offered an increase for the last few years. So since the second quarter of 2012, our cases have significantly risen, primarily related to the opiate and heroin issues in Geauga County. Since 2012, we have had a 26% increase in cases. But at the end of last year, and even through this year, at the end of last year, our numbers reflected that 30% of our cases did involve opiate and heroin use. It's continuing to be actually at a higher level right now. I don't know where we'll be at the end of the year. So our numbers have significantly increased. Cases in 2011, so this was before we saw the increase in the opiate and heroin use, was for the year of 2011, we had 74 cases. That's cases as a family group, a sibling group. That was 148 children. In 2012, it was 84 cases. And in 2013, it was 93 cases. So it's been a significant increase. Clearly became, it became clear that this was not a blip on the screen, that this is something that is continuing. So I thought that it would be reasonable to ask for a 30% increase in funds based on the 26% increase in cases just directly related to opiate and heroin, and the fact that each year we have had an increase. And the way our numbers are showing right now for the first half of this year, it will probably be higher than last year. So based on that, I asked for the 30% increase. That takes us to a total of $42,231.25 for the VOCA monies, and the continuing amount of money for the state VOCA, our state victim assistance grant, is $4,735. So we look forward to getting that increase. I want to say as part of that I appreciate the support of Judge Grandel and the commissioners, that you have increased our staff time and our staff because we want to continue to provide a high quality program with the volunteers. We still, despite the increase in cases, have been able to assign every case a CASA volunteer. Last year, not only was there a significant increase in cases, but we had 79 volunteers cover all of those cases. Some of them took on multiple cases so that we could cover every case that came into the court. That was significantly up. In the past, it's been in the low 60s volunteers who were active on cases during a year. And the number of volunteer hours went up significantly. It was 7,046 hours of in-kind service. If you considered what that would cost to pay attorneys, it would be $352,300. And as Judge Grandel says, and of course I've been here long enough and I'm biased to say that they do a better job than the attorneys. because they have more time to give, and they go above and beyond what is required, and therefore make a huge difference. And because we have Friends of Casa, who is funding requests for the children to go to camp and take horseback riding lessons, if you had attorneys, that none of that would exist. So, this is a copy of our end of the year report last year, which covers a lot of what I just said. So our program is growing, but we are keeping up with the numbers and continuing to provide quality support and supervision to the volunteers who are able to provide for all the needs of the court.
272. That's pretty good.
Since the beginning of the program.
Yeah, that's really
Wonderful, wonderful.
I just wanna let them know the change this year with submission.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Finally, the AG's office has been talking for the last few years about making the process easier for them and for us, and by having it all by electronic submission. Originally, the first message we got when we sat through the webinar was that if the commissioners wanted to sign a hard copy paper, they could, but then at the last minute, we learned that no, they would only accept an electronic signature. So I am asking that you approve and authorize me to put my electronic signature on the grant on behalf of you. Christine has had an opportunity to review a hard copy, and I
They all
guess
got it.
that you received it as well. So that is the content of the grant, and they only want it submitted by electronic signature.
Yep.
The probate juvenile court is requesting the board approve the Geauga County Victims of Crime Act, Geauga 2015 VAD SCE 480 and State Victims Assistance Act SBAA 2015 SAD SCE 480 CASA for Kids grant application in the amount of $42,231.25. This grant will receive a total of $32,185 from the Office of the Attorney General, including $8,046.25 local match from the Geauga County General Fund. The local grant will provide $1,500 to cover fees for legal consultation, which requires a $500 in-kind match in the form of volunteer hours, and includes $4,735 in SBA funds with no local match. This grant is for the period October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2015, and further authorize CASA Director Christine Foltz-Steigerwald to electronically execute and submit the VOCA SBA grant assurances and center certifications.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
My motion stands approved. Yeah,
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks for all the efforts you've made.
Okay, we've got transit. Mike, how are you? Good, how are you? Good, good.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Aye.
I'm here to ask the commission to approve number 14 and 15 are kind of intertwined. Number 14, the transit department had a posting for one part-time driver to replace one that retired in March. It has since come to my attention that we are having a person also retire August 1st. And he has filed his paperwork with orders, et cetera, so I know he is leaving us. So therefore, I asked for that increase to 2 so I can cover both of those absences. Number 15 is to cover the first request that we had out there, the initial one. We hire William Forsythe to the position of part-time driver. He's a very highly qualified individual, very good safety record, and he also has experience driving paratransit buses. So,
Okay,
Good.
if we could read that 14 and 15.
The Transit Department is requesting the board increase the current posting for part-time driver number 2210-1 from 1 to 2 positions. The Transit Department is requesting the board approve hiring William Forsythe to the position of part-time driver number 2210-1 to be effective June 30th, 2014 at a rate of $12.64 per hour. After the successful completion of a 1,000-hour probationary period, the rate will increase to $13.30 per hour.
Make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye, both approved. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Okay, Jared Morgan, how are you? Good.
Morning, Gary.
Item 17 is Megan Belsoni is our part-time summer help, and she has a wedding out of town that she's going to be in a couple weeks, and she's requesting to have the time off without pay, obviously.
Okay. If we could read 16.
The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve 40 hours of unpaid leave of absence for Megan Basilone summer help for the period July 7, 2014 through July 11, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye, motion approved. 17, Deb.
The next item is our Gates Landing in Bainbridge Township, which is part of the overall Canyon Lakes development. It's being developed, this portion of it is actually being developed by Payne and Payne Builders. It's total, the total is eventually be 65 lots for, small lot, independent or Payne and Payne type houses, similar to the Edwards Landing that's down there right across Flintlock Bridge from where this is. This portion is phase 1 of that, and it's 31 lots. It's gonna be private roads, so within the development, we'll have an easement, eventually have an easement for the water and sewer that they'll be tying into.
Now, there's still room for a couple other,
I believe
One more.
off of Flintlock Ridge, there's one more section that they could develop. This portion is 31 lots, the 65 total, but beyond that, there's one more portion that could be developed. And then on the other side of the ravine, off of Northview, there's still sublot, or phase 13 is what they're calling it. That they've got approval on part of that for another 2 cul-de-sacs. They put one in about 6 years, 7 years ago, and now there's rumor that they're gonna be putting the other 2 cul-de-sacs in at some point, but those plans were approved 6 years ago. They just only did the one cul-de-sac at that time.
okay. So if we could read 17.
The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board accept and approve the site improvement plans for Gates Landing in Bainbridge Township for sanitary sewer and water line construction in the Canyon Lakes development. The sewer and water line will be installed as part of the development by the developer under the inspection of Water Resources personnel. Once completed and appropriate easements are granted, ownership, operation, and maintenance of the sewer and water will be turned over to Geauga County.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye, motion approved.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jared.
Thanks, Jared.
Okay,
We're gonna cover the number 19, because we got a couple minutes.
okay, so number 19 is,
I don't think we hear it.
No, this is actually coming from our office.
Yeah,
Right.
this is our office asking that you approve the solicitation of architectural qualifications for potential building of a new facility down in Clarendon Township for veteran services and other administrative purposes.
we could read 19.
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the board approve and release the public announcement request for statement of interest qualifications for available contract for professional design services in connection with the 2015 Veteran Service Center at Clarendon Administrative Facility Project.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye, motion approved. Do you want to wait till 10:30?
Yeah, they'll wait till they
For anything, then I could just cover some
Yeah.
of the meetings. So we're gonna have, on June 24th, we'll have our post-audit meeting, state auditors at 11:30 today. The ADP board meeting at 2 PM at the auditor's office. 6:25 is Perry Nuclear Power Plant training exercise at Quail Hollow. The commissioners will hold regular session at 6:30 on Thursday, and it will include the review of the revisions to the mitigation plan for Geauga County. On the 30th, we have border revisions, 9 o'clock. July 1st, the commissioners will hold regular session. On the 4th, the office will be closed for the 4th of July holiday. The 8th, the commissioners will hold a regular session. The 8th, we have a planning commission meeting at 7 PM in the planning commission meeting room across the street. And on the 10th, the commissioners will hold regular session. And on the 11th, NOACA Board of Directors, 10 AM in Cleveland. We could waive the reading of the minutes or the hearing.
I would make that motion.
Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Motion approved.
We do have copies.
You do have copies? All right. Well, you folks want to maybe take a seat in the audience?
To move?
For the discussion, sort of warmed up. I'm sorry. Actually, I don't want you to. You'll get copies. All right. Turn my high-tech presentation system. Jumped ahead. Okay. This is the work of Heidi Delaney, our Budget and Finance Administrator. She had a family emergency and had to step away this morning, so I'm gonna do the presentation. Hopefully I won't screw it up too badly for all Heidi's hard work. The Geauga County is on a calendar fiscal year, and so we have a whole budget cycle that begins in the spring, preceding the year that is being discussed. And we ask departments to solicit or to provide us with their budgetary estimates for the following year. And the departments input their budget requests into our New World accounting system. And then Heidi works with those numbers and generates a document called the tax budget. Today is the hearing for the tax budget, and then in a couple weeks, the commissioners will actually take action to consider adopting the tax budget. What we'll be talking about mostly in this discussion is the general fund. The county has over 100 funds. These are individual buckets of money for taking in money and spending money for specific purposes. And the total amount is, I think we'll see in here, is about $108 million budgeted for the next year, of which 29-some million is the general fund. And as the name implies, that's the part that really can be spent for a number of things under the commissioner's control. So let's talk about the tax budget guidelines. It is a planning tool. It's the beginning of the budget process that kind of shows us, gives us a roadmap as to how the public's money should be spent. It is also designed to demonstrate need to levy taxes. You know, one of the requirements of Ohio Revised Code is if a political subdivision is going to levy taxes, they have to prove that there's a need for that. So the tax budget, one of the functions it fulfills is to demonstrate need. In doing a budget, we follow conservative guidelines. And at least our definition of conservative is we tend to underestimate or guess low on the revenues we're going to see in any given year, and we tend to overestimate the expenses that we may incur, so that we're not being overly optimistic and putting ourselves in a corner of having thought we were going to get more money than we did, or spending less money than we did. So we use a conservative approach. Following the adoption of the tax budget in September and October, generally every year, the commissioners meet with all the individual departments that are within the commissioner's budget. So we have budget hearings, and these are open to the public. Generally, they're conducted in our conference room off to the side here. If there was anything where it appeared to be a lot of public participation or interest, we would set it up to probably meet in here. So we talk to the departments. We say, this is what was approved in the tax budget, and they talk about things that we may not have approved in the tax budget that they want to make the case for. Typically, capital expenditures. We don't put a lot of major capital acquisitions in here because those are typically things that can be deferred. Okay, so this is a new slide for this year, Heidi thought was appropriate, and I completely agree, that for every dollar in property tax that a homeowner pays on average, only 20 cents of that is going to the county. A lot of people think, well, the county treasurer collects the money, it's all going to the county. No. 20.5 cents is going to the county. The rest of it, a large amount is going to the school district, joint vocation school, and library. They use the remaining 79.5 cents. So, okay, remember, 20.5 cents of every dollar. Now, let's go look at where that 20.5 cents goes. Only 21% of that 20.5 cents goes in the Commissioner's General Fund that we're going to be talking about.
Less than 1 cent.
The rest of these are all levies that the voters choose to support. Now, that doesn't mean every voter supports them, but it means a majority of voters supported them. Park District, 18%. Metzenbaum, which is developmental disabled, 28%. Health District, 2%. Mental Health, 10%. Children's Services, which is JFS, 6%. Senior Citizens, I think that's 5%. And Road and Bridge, 8%.
So would it be fair to say that of the 20 cents out of every dollar, general fund gets about a 0.9 cents, not even quite a penny?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Not
21,
even
yeah,
quite a
21% of 20
Of every dollar,
Of
not
every
even
dollar,
quite.
correct,
Good to know that.
correct. Okay. So the total tax budget that we're gonna be discussing is $108 million, almost $109 million for all funds. The general fund is 29.4 million of that. We had requests totaling $30.6 million. Oops. Okay.
That always happens.
But the budget is at 29.4. Well, how'd the budget get to 29.4? Well, we estimate what our carry forward is gonna be, the amount of money in the bank that's not tied up in purchase orders, plus the estimated receipts in the general fund, and it comes up to 29.4 million. So we take all these requests and we cut them back to the money conservatively we think we're gonna have. Will we probably have more than that? Yeah, probably, but we don't count on it in the budget. So to make this 29.4, we're assuming this year a carryover balance of $4.5 million. So January 1, say there's going to be balance in the system of $5.2 million, but $700,000 of that is tied up in purchase orders and whatnot. It's encumbered. You can't count on that. So we're saying there's $4.5 million not encumbered available to start the year, and then we expect to get just under 25 million in revenue, giving us those resources of 29.4. So here's our revenue sources. You can see 3/4 roughly is sales tax, 44%, real estate, that small amount we were talking about before, is 30% of the general fund. So those two combined are 3/4 of our money coming in. Then you have property transfer tax at 3%, local government, which is the part that the state has cut us back drastically on, is down to 2%. Interest income is down to 1%, used to be a lot higher, but with interest well below 1%, that's what we're talking. Department fees and fines, 9%. Cost allocation, where we charge non-general fund funds for services provided by general fund entities like the auditor and the prosecutor and the commissioner's office, 2%. Casino tax is a new category. That's 3%, and that's good, but you don't really necessarily want to count on that long term because you don't know, that may fluctuate over time with the economy. Prisoner housing, 2%. That's gone up, and it's also shrunk to nothing. So that's another one you can't necessarily count on. And other is a conglomeration of various sources, 4%. This is my favorite chart because I'm a budget nerd. And unfortunately, the colors don't reproduce real well here, so I'll try and point them out to you. This is a stacked bar chart showing general fund revenue sources 2007, where we got 29.9. This is revenue. This doesn't include the beginning balance. This is revenue. All the way down out to 2013. It's the last numbers we have final numbers for, 28.6 million. Now, people always say, well, how come it's dropping off? There's two things that people always get confused when we talk budgets. One is Suddenly, we're budgeting a lot less money. Well, that goes back to the conservative approach I was telling you about. We don't know for sure, so we're gonna guess low. The other thing that I'll get to later on the expense side is people see an expenditure and all of a sudden it's budgeted a lot higher for the next year. Like, well, why are you gonna spend a lot more money? We're budgeting high on the expenses. We typically don't spend more than 90% overall. But when you look at these charts, if you don't understand the basis for them, it's easy to look at a jump and draw a conclusion that may be not based on full information. All right, I want to compare 2 years. 2008, 28.4 million, and 2013, 28.6 million. Very similar top-end numbers. But very different components as to how you get there, so you can get a sense of the changing nature of government funding. Okay? First thing I'll draw your attention to is this. If you see this little red slice here, this is around 1.5 million of our, historically $29 million budget. 1.5 million that used to not be in our revenue prior to 2009. And the reason it wasn't in there is because the commissioners at the time, being fiscally very conservative, said, ask the auditor, say, take $1.5 million and put it into a separate fund for debt retirement. So it's like an auto pay deduction. You're not gonna just keep it in your checkbook and then hope you have money to pay the note. You're gonna take it off the top like a payroll deduction, so you don't even see it. So we used to do that. Well, the bottom dropped out in 2009. Drastically, that was the year when our conservative revenue estimates weren't conservative enough, and we had to do some retrenching. Based on that, we went to the auditor and said, that $1.5 million we were putting in debt retirement, put it back in the general fund. So ever since then, it's been back in the general fund. And now in order to pay off our debt, the commissioners may have to make a conscious decision every year at some point when they feel they have the money to take some general fund money and put it in debt retirement. If they don't do that, there'll be no money to pay on the loan. And to maintain our great credit rating, we gotta be paying down our debt. Okay, so now you look at these two numbers and you suddenly realize this 28.6, if we were doing what we were doing in 2008, would only be 27.1. So it looks like we're recovered, and we have recovered, but we're still not entirely out of the woods. Now look at some of the other slices. There's the good news. See the casino tax? That's in there. That's good. But look at the, this is investment income. Look at how big this slice used to be back in 2007. And look where it's projected now. That little tiny slice there. Okay. Another one that jumps up and down, prisoner housing. Look, we're doing great. Prisoner housing. The jail opened, and that was part of the rationale of putting that money on debt retirement, is you're paying off your building with outside prisoners you're housing, you're getting revenue from. Instead of like jacking up the size of government and hiring a bunch of employees, you're paying down your debt. Okay. But look what happened in 2009. All of a sudden, we got notified early 2009 by Geauga County, who's setting on prisoners, that, oh, we're not going to do that anymore. Bam! And we had that figured into our budget. That was one of the things that where it turned out we were too high on our estimate. We had no idea they were going to suddenly shut it off because they have their own financial problems, and they decided to not house prisoners in Geauga County. So look at 10, 11, virtually nothing. And all of a sudden in 12, it popped back up, but now it's shrunk a little bit again. So we're projecting it. We got an estimate from the sheriff's office on revenue. We cut it back a little bit, in that revenue estimate of ours, because we're just not sure. It's one of those things you want to be surprised at the end of the year. You don't want to count on it. Okay, I've spent enough time on this. I don't know if there's any questions on this one in particular. It's a particularly informative slide. Okay, moving on. So changes to available resources. This is just kind of a comparison year to year. Our unencumbered carryover balance in 12 was 4.2. It was 4.6 in 13. Now it's budgeted. It's budgeted to jump this year, partially because we don't have anything in the budget to put aside that $1.5 million for debt retirement. So that's one reason why it jumped. We're being conservative again in our estimate. So we're saying we're going to have a carryover of $4.5 million, and we hope to be there. There you can see the actual revenues, and then we're again budgeting low for next year and for the rest of this year and next year. So decrease, in this slide, our budgeted decrease in revenue is $155,000. And I think she explains here on the next slide, why is that going down? Well, we're expecting our sales tax to be up a little bit, expecting our cost allocation to be up a little bit, but we're being conservative with our prisoner housing. Our interest income is gonna be knocked down to $156,000, and just a bunch of other categories of other, it's $50,000, which means we're expecting our revenue for 15 to be about $156,000 less than this year. Now we go to the expense side. Bottom line, we are projecting 29.4, and this is current year budget versus our tax budget, an increase of $365,000. Okay, where's that coming from? Well, one of the big things is we have in our budget a 3.5% overall for wage increases for next year. We also have budgeted 13% increase to hospitalization charges. I got an update recently on our claims experience. We're having some rough times in claims experience. I still hope that overall we'll still come in well under that 12%. Last year in the tax budget, I put in 12%, and it was like 5%. But had we not been in SEVCO, had we not been in that pool, our increase would have been 12%. Just a lucky guess, but we were saved by being in SEVCO. We also are going to see an increase in our detention center cost. That's projected by the Portage Geauga Juvenile Joint Detention Center. They kind of tell us what that number is, so we don't have a lot of control over that. And this tax budget doesn't include most large equipment requests. They're not in there because we don't know what money we're going to have to get it out. Okay, and we are comparing, oh, I see. This is just another way of looking at this. This is the actual numbers. The salary, 3.5%, adds up to over $300,000. The hospitalization's $126,000. The projected cost increase is $139,000. Then we backed out of there the equipment that people asked for. We didn't put in, and a few other reductions to get us to. We're still $365,000 over this year's budget. And here's the breakdown. By department, or by category. These are categories as established on the CAFR, which is the state reporting. They're the ones that set up these categories. Public safety is estimated to be going up 1.6%. Legislative and executive, which is this office and the auditor's office, the service offices, that's a 0.4% increase, so hardly any increase at all. Judicial is up 3.7%. That's a big number. Conservation recreation. This is actually this is the combination of the OSU extension and soil and water. Actually, soil and water is asking for less, so there's a reduction there of 7.7% overall. Human services. This is the veterans. They had a change in personnel there that caused their appropriation to go down a little bit. Health. This number is the same. This is actually a state mandated category called the Crippled Children Fund. By state law, we have to set aside 1/10 of a mill. One of our mills in Geauga County would be over $3 million. So we have to set aside $312,000 for any indigent people who need tuberculosis assistance and things like that. So we have to put that in our budget. That's one of the things that helps us get a better carryovers if we're fortunate in a given year and they don't charge us as much. That's money we don't have to spend. And once you get to the 312, we're done. So that's kind of the worst case scenario. Miscellaneous, which is a whole lot of categories, up 4.6%. So again, there's your $365,000 difference again. And by slice, the largest slice of the general fund is public safety. Then you have legislative and executive, judicial is 17%, and then smaller slices. But the biggest single slice for the general fund is public safety. So, the current tax budget requirement is $29,416,000. We estimate our resources, our revenues at almost $25 million. So we're counting on that $4.5 million carryover. Keys to getting that carryover, which has ranged from 3.6 million to 7.2 in the last 5 years, is asking people not to spend money for the sake of spending money. If you don't need it, don't buy it. That keeps the expenditures down. The other thing that keeps the carryover up is if you get money coming into the general fund that wasn't in the original budget estimate. Say say the prisoner housing suddenly spikes and we start getting money in, that'll add to our carryover at the beginning of the year. Okay. So the overall goal, as always, is to fund general increases at or below 2014 levels where possible. And anyone coming with any new initiatives or new areas of spending money over and above what's been traditional, they have to show us the return on investment. Is that something that in the long run is going to save us money? And that is the tax budget. Question?
What will it take to get this presentation to all the homes in the county? To educate the people
Well, it can be
as to
on,
what we're actually doing here in this office.
it can be on the, we can put it on the website, and I think we've done that before. I mean, this is just kind of like the 30,000-foot treetop level. And we love talking, I mean, Heidi and I love talking budget, because we're proud of the work that's been done in this office.
Well, I understand.
And we're always looking for areas where maybe we missed something. We want continuous improvement, we want to do it better all the time. But yeah, I mean, we'll have it, we'll make sure it's on the website. Okay? And if you have any specific questions, give us a call. Okay? Any other questions?
Good job.
And again, I want to recognize Heidi, who would have been here except for last minute family.
We saw her leave.
She is the one that
Disconcerting.
does this work. I'm just here, you know, I collaborate with her and we talk about it, but she's the one that really makes it happen. I want to give her the credit because we're very fortunate to have her. Okay, that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Close the public hearing first at 10:50.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.